Hello, Internet, and thank you for tuning in to this episode that I am calling Am I Trans, Am I Crazy, or Both? So, this wasn't a topic that I was planning on doing, but it's something that I've just been thinking about lately, and a thing that I've talked to some other trans people about, and just something I wanted to talk about, if for no other reason than to make myself feel a little bit better. So, when you're trans, and because I'm just saying this as having talked to several other trans people who feel the same way, there is kind of these moments that you have where you're like, am I just being crazy? Is this just completely nuts? And it can be hard when that happens, and they are just kind of like sort of flashes of, like, wait, sure, this is what I really want. And when I do have those moments, what I usually think about is I think about how it used to be, how things used to feel, how I was before I came out. And a couple of the things that I think about is, like, before I came out, everything had this sort of malaise of self-loathing. Like, it didn't matter how good things were going or how good I was doing or really anything. There was always just this sort of underlying sense of I don't like me. And that was just true always. Like, it didn't matter if I did really good at work. It didn't matter if everything in my life was perfect for the moment. There was always just this sense of, I don't like who I am. Another big thing that I have noticed, and this is just recently, and this is probably kind of weird, it makes me sound completely crazy, is I always had this sensation of that there was something in the back of my mind that was actually in charge of what was going on. It's hard to explain, but I don't feel that anymore. I don't feel like there's this other part of myself that I'm only vaguely aware of, but that is the part of me that's actually making all the decisions. I don't feel that at all anymore. I feel like I'm just myself now, and that there isn't this sort of subdivisions of who I am, which was something I really felt a lot before. And a thing that's probably more common is I don't hate my appearance anymore. When I first came out and I was going to therapy for it, I remember telling the therapist that I already have more times feeling pretty as myself than I ever did feeling handsome. And it's true, like, I did not take very good care of myself at all before I came out. And it was because I just didn't care. I had no connection or significant attachment to my appearance, to who I was, to my body. I just didn't care. I just couldn't be bothered to care. And deep down, I kind of knew what it always was, but I mean, the best way that I can describe it, how I felt before coming out, was because I never had that sensation that a lot of trans people have of being, like, trapped in the wrong body. It was like wishing you could fly or something like that. Something that was just so far beyond the reach of possibility that why even think about it? Why even waste the energy to put, to put the effort into thinking about it? It might be a satisfying fantasy for a few minutes to, waste some time or whatever, but it was so far outside of the realm of what I thought I could ever be that I never let myself think about it very long. I never let myself explore that idea. Partially because it made me sad. It made me sad to think of it as a thing that I could never have and could never be. But mostly it was that, like I said, the sensation of like wishing you could fly. It's just this thing that I'd never be able to obtain, I'd never be able to do, so why even let myself think about it? It's just going to make me feel bad. And this sort of sensation of, is this what I want? Am I crazy? And these feelings that I've had as to why it's like, no, I'm not being crazy at all. This has always been how I am, is something that is kind of not a constant struggle, but there are moments where, and nothing even necessarily happens. It's just you kind of get these flashes of, what am I doing? And that's pretty normal. I think that's pretty normal for just about anything. I think most people have those sorts of moments no matter what's going on. And like I said, most of the trans people that I've talked to say that they have the same feeling sometimes. And it depends. It's, because everyone's transition is different. So some people seem to have it more than others. But it is something that does seem to be fairly universal. So what's the overarching point of all this? What am I getting at? And not really anything. I don't really feel, I've been thinking a lot about this and thinking a lot about doing this video, and I don't really have an overarching point other than that it was just something that I wanted to talk about. It was something I wanted to get off my chest and express, because it's not something I feel often. I wouldn't even say it's something that I feel daily or even necessarily weekly, but every once in a while there is that, what are you doing sensation. And every time that I have that and I think about how I felt and I think about how much better I feel now, that's always really affirming. Another thing that's very affirming is when people talk about how it makes sense now. I had a discussion with one of my friends just this past weekend where he was telling me that it makes so much sense. Like, so many things about who I was and how I acted and everything just makes sense now. And I feel like that's probably true with a lot of people, because I always was kind of an odd duck, and I do feel more normalized now. And I feel like that was a lot of just sort of struggling against myself, trying to find meaning or force purpose from a mold I didn't quite fit into. Yeah, it was just something that I felt like I needed to talk about, and that I just hope that me talking about this maybe helps other people who are just coming out or thinking about coming out. Just, you know how you feel. You know what feels right. And it is always important to do self-examination, no matter what the thing might be. But you know what's right for you. You know what is the way you should be. And don't be afraid of that. One thing I've always kind of tried to keep you sort of close to my heart is, if you don't want to do something just because you're afraid of how other people are going to view it, or are going to see you, or are going to react to it, as long as it's something that isn't inherently morally wrong, that isn't hurting someone or taking someone else's stuff or just mindless destruction, that's a poor reason to not do it. Because isn't that really you? If the only thing that's holding you off from doing it is not some sort of moral or ethical quandary, but just whether or not others will be accepting of it, doesn't that seem like really denying yourself? And that's something that I've tried to live by for a long time. Well, saying always is kind of unfair, but something I've tried to live by for a long time, and that I try to remind myself of, that it's okay to be me. It's okay to know what I want and to go after that. Well, that's about all I have for this. I was not expecting to do this topic. I have some other topics that I was planning on doing, but this was just something that I really wanted to do, and I really want this channel to be sort of unfiltered and really honest. And this was something that I was feeling now. This was something that I was feeling motivated to do, and so I'm doing it. If you have any questions or want to talk about your own thing, it's down there somewhere. Assuming they don't change the layout completely, who knows? But yeah, thank you for tuning in, and I will hopefully have updates more frequently. Bye.